If it wasn't for your prompting, I would have just assumed, no way I would have gotten anything. So I wanted to thank you.
No, we appreciate you growling. A problem with us here.
Now, Tom O'Brien.
Wow, I'll try and get that growl out. Welcome, folks. Tommy O'Brien coming to you live from TFNN. Tom's out for today. He'll be back in the saddle next week. We got a mixed market coming into the final hour of trading for the week. We got the S&Ps right now, negative by 4 points, hanging at 39.05. All things considered, right near all-time highs. You get the NASDAQ 100, negative 50 points, 13,582, backing off a bit from the highs we had earlier this week of 13,900. The Dow, negative 31 points right now, within about 200 points of all-time highs at 31,459. And how about the Russell? Up a solid 1.8% right now, 2258, off of the highs we had a couple of weeks, but a strong, strong day in the Russell 2000. Talk about strong days. How about Bitcoin? Talked about Bitcoin on the show this morning at 10 o'clock, and I mentioned that maybe 55,000 could be a mark to look for, maybe an A to B, C to D completion of that expansion. You start that 8 point at maybe at around, give or take, 17,500. You trade up to a price level of about 42,730. You're talking about a 25,000 A to B, C to D leg. We pull back, interesting enough, throwing a little Fibonacci on there. You pull back about a 50% retracement on Bitcoin from the highs of January 8th to the lows of, we chopped around there at about the end of January, and we've just blown right past that point, a high of 56,235 on Bitcoin. That's coming from a low of 29,000 just on January 27th. Folks, it's only February 19th. Remarkable action in Bitcoin. If you're in that, boy, you better be aware that you are dealing with some risk capital, because anytime you got to move this fast, just talking about the run we had from January 27th, if you want to talk about a move that you could think that could happen, 38% retracement, 0.382, you're talking about a move of $10,000 to the negative. And that would just be a normal retracement, folks, of the market moving anytime. I mean, this bar we have today has a low of 50,695 and a high of almost 6,000 points above there. Remarkable action in cryptos, in Bitcoin. Jumping around to commodities. Crude giving back some of the gains as the pain in Texas looks to ease a bit. We have crude now under $59, $58.93. That's from a high of $62.29 just yesterday. I mean, man, this run in crude, how about just the month of February? We've gone from a low of 51.64 up to 62.29. We'll throw a little Fibonacci on here, and we're going to be coming back right to that area. Look for that first area of 58.21. We chopped around there a little bit. That'd be the first area of Fibonacci retracement to look for, and we're coming right into that area right now at 58.94 in the price of light sweet crude. You jump over to gold. Pretty calm action in gold. We're actually below the lows that we had in November. The low was 1767. We're actually back above there right now, I should say. We'll zoom it in. We get below that level, and now we've climbed above 1779. We're a solid $20 off of the lows we had today in gold, but right near that level, critical level in gold, to hold that level of support we have, because you get below that, and we're talking about really the area that we chopped around in between about April and potentially July at around $1,700 before we accelerated higher to the highs of 2,089. Silver's up 23 cents at 27.31. And boy, I just talked about it in the update. You look at notes and bonds. You want to talk about some yields. And how about this, folks? We're talking about a 10-year right now of 1.34%. 1.34%. The 30-year's at 2.13%. You put that on the chart. Now, here's your chart of the 10-year. We've traded from about 140.09 to 135.15. We haven't been down at this level since basically the March volatility. But, boy, you take a look at the 30-year. We're now back to basically, we haven't been in this level since February, right? We're below anything that we saw in March and the like, and we just traded from, you're talking about 20 points, from 183.06, and we're trading at 163.04. 20 points in the 30-year as rates look to rise higher. How is that going to impact the market? If rates start to accelerate higher, is the Fed going to pull back? I mean, one of the articles I had up here in terms of taper tantrum. There we go. Speculation of a tantrum for the markets. Well, no tantrum just yet, folks. That's for sure. All right, jumping around to what else we have going on. I touched on in the update as well. We had Roku out with their numbers, continuing higher today, up about 3.5%. John Deere, my goodness, up 11% today, $333. Good business to be in the agriculture business as it continues to accelerate higher, almost 11% now for John Deere, out with their numbers. And we also jump into some of the other equities I'm going to take a look at, and the one I want to talk about is Uber. So Uber, we have some Uber in my newsletter, complete disclosure, and they got a tough ruling today. Interesting price action on the stock, though. We'll jump over in a moment. So Uber loses UK ruling on drivers' blow to gig economy. So the real battle here is, we saw it play out in the U.S. Uber had their own initiative in California that put it to the voters to say, do we classify Uber workers as contract employees or just straight out employees, right? And that's a big difference, whether you're talking about it comes with minimum wage, it comes with benefits, it comes with time off. California voted, and I would agree, that they're contract workers. And again, well, yeah, we have some Uber shares, right? I have my own biases, but if you just think about how this company functions, and listen, I'm all for unions, so this is not a political question, but I don't even know how you classify Uber drivers. And so let's just say that they now are entitled. So to walk through it, Uber lost a UK Supreme Court ruling over the rights of its drivers. A landmark decision is how Bloomberg classifies it, strikes a blow against the gig economy. Judges unanimously ruled that drivers are workers entitled to rights like minimum wage, holiday pay, and rest breaks. How do you assign holiday pay to workers for a company like Uber that can work whenever they want? As in, you want to work 10 hours a week, you work 10 hours a week. You want to work 40, you work 40, you work 60. You have the ability as a contract employee to work when you want to and take the rides when you want to. You want to work for Uber, you want to work for Uber and for Lyft. Maybe you're working for DoorDash as well. I'm not too familiar. I don't even know how this gets applied to that business model. So you wake up this morning and you say, geez, this might be a tough one for Uber, right? And it was down pre-market. But guess what? Talk about a little bit of a resurgence, and it's giving it back. There you see the volatility in the news. Uber spikes to 56.63. We drive up to 60.50. We're back now to 58.31. I was jumping around to some of the news in here. All right. You have Webbush in here, one of the analysts, talking about, and I'll bring this back after the break, saying this is an isolated, contained risk, but it is a risk. They still got an outperform on this stock. We'll break it down a little bit more. But interesting action, down about 1%, not ideal. But Uber, a little bit of volatility today. Stay tuned, folks. We got a lot to talk about right after the break.